Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing, while also documenting their own personal investing journeys, are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode for you. We brought back on two of our previous guests that we had on about 3 years ago. They did an excellent job then, did even better today. They are creative finance specialists. It's Jenn and Joe DelleFave, originally from New York, moved down to Florida, and they, like I said, they run a creative finance business within the real estate industry. We've actually had a couple of their students on our show. They run a coaching program and teach people how to buy real estate creatively. So to still take advantage of some of those really low rates that a lot of people were seeing during COVID. This is the way to buy real estate in the future. I know a lot of people are having difficulty in today's market with interest rates being high, wonky market. Two just great people. They homeschool their kids. They have a different outlook on life. And I don't know. I really, as we've done a couple of different episodes, you guys can tell the people that we really vibe with and jive with. And they're our people. We really like them. They're willing to coach and train people. They're not out. What I really like is they're within their coaching program. They're not trying to take dollars away from people. They already have enough money through their real estate portfolio to kind of live and do their thing forever. But they want to show other people and impact their lives and show them the way of the future to buy real estate. And so, fun episode for us. They really broke down the different strategies, and they don't use the one fun thing I want to talk about is they don't use a cold calling team, which a lot of people do. They use Facebook, they use ads, and have a different way they go about sourcing their deals.
Yeah, I don't even know how much more I can say here. These two they're great. They're giving back. And it's funny, we had a case study of Mike and Jay on a few weeks back, maybe a month or maybe even 2 months back, of they were Jenn and Joe's students. And they are teaching people the exact way to buy, how they bought deals for years. I mean, they started doing creative financing in 2016, 2017, and they are rolling through deals. I love, we have a little Florida connection. They're down there in Tampa, which I love. And I don't know, they brought, it's a pen and paper type thing too, because they're not just talking like in theory, they're giving you the exact thing that they did in a deal. What's the disposition? How did they get it under contract? They're giving prices and how somebody bought a property for 135 and they put 15 into it and they flipped it and they made 50 grand. Like, this is, every now and then we give you the real deal of actually what's going on within some of these deals, so to speak. And they did that today. So great episode, great people, not too long. You should get a pen and paper.
Yeah. And if you want to get involved in their coaching program, you can check out the link in our show notes. And then there's potentially going to be a link in our bio on Instagram. So make sure to click that if you're interested, or drop us a DM and we can connect you directly with Jenn. She's really active on social, but they do a great job. And she was a middle school teacher for years. And really, even in this episode, you can tell people that really break down step by step how to get to your dream destination. They do a great job of it. So without further ado, let's bring them in.
It's time to flip the script on how you invest in real estate. Backflip is one company out there that is actually changing the game. Backflip is an all-in-one platform that gives you the insights, capital, and community to find and fund your fix and flip real estate deals. The app is completely free. And actually, the part Ryan and I love the most is you can pull comps, estimate profits for multiple exit strategies in seconds, and apply for a personalized loan all in one place. We're talking a 96% loan to cost ratio and no upfront fees. Check it out for yourself. Download the Backflip app today.
Having purchased investment properties as well as primary residences, we know how daunting it can be to find a reliable lender to secure financing for real estate in the market today. With the up and down of the market, high interest rates, and the complexity of the process, honestly, it can feel like a lot. So to help out our community, we decided to bring on probably the most important person, or one of the most important members of our personal real estate investing team, onto the show to help out our listeners. Our mortgage lender, Travis David of CMG Home Loans, has agreed to educate our community and assist anyone looking for real estate financing. Whether you're a real estate investor looking to fund your next project or simply looking to purchase a primary residence, Travis will be able to help you and point you in the right direction. So he provides each of his clients with a tailored roadmap designed to guide them through purchasing their first investment property and strategically scale their portfolios over time. So if you're looking to either purchase your first residence or maybe second residence, but a primary residence, or invest in real estate, Travis is your guy. Visit our website at www.juice-enterprises.com/need-funding to book a call with Travis to explore all the loan packages that him and his team currently have available. He'll also help assess your current situation and will work with you to map out a plan for the future. So just remember this, we can all win. This is an example we really wanted to help out our community and something we find people are lacking in a daunting process. So if you are looking for real estate financing, we have your back. Make sure to visit our website and Travis will take care of you. Quick public service announcement for all of our listeners. First off, we want to thank you all for tuning into the show, not only this week, but we've seen you coming back episode after episode. And one thing we'd really like your assistance on, if possible, you know that our content's free and it takes a lot to pump this out every week. We're really looking to enhance our overall reviews on the show. That can be on Spotify, but mainly we are looking for Apple Podcasts. If you could please leave us a 5-star review, that will go so long and so far for us. Really, when people are looking to get on shows, they look to see how many 5-star reviews that show has and the number of reviews. So if you haven't left one, please just click on our show. You can scroll down to reviews and then leave the 5-star. Even if you can write a little blurb about us, like what maybe has helped motivate you or anything that is relatable to your life, that would go such a long way for us. And then in turn, it allows us to get high quality guests for future episodes. So if there's been a motivating episode that you can really think back to and that has really helped you in your life, please leave a review because we'll be able to get someone like that on the show in the future to help someone else out. So that would be very much appreciated. And we look forward to continuing more episodes for you. Jenn and Joe, officially welcome back to the Weekly Juice podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you back on the show. I think we interviewed you coming up on 3 years now, maybe more. You guys were previously living in New York. You moved down to Florida. Your coaching program has taken off. And for those who don't know, you guys are really big in the creative finance space. So we are excited to share the evolution of your story and get you back on the horn here with everybody and have a great conversation. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having us back. We're really excited to catch up.
Yeah, a lot of cool things have happened over the last few years, so we're excited to connect too. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I think one thing I want to touch on too, we had 2 of your students on our show recently, just a great testimonial, Mike and Jay, Mike Scarpa, and I think it's Jay Morales. They known as like Investing with Romans, and you guys, whoever's listening,
it's their dog, I think, right?
Yeah, it's their dog.
Yeah.
But you can find them on social, but they are a product of your coaching program and have scaled their businesses crazy. I'll start here. Like they let us know that their real estate portfolio or real estate business is on par to do $400K this year, coaching program $250. And these guys went from living in with one of their parents and working out of their garage and completely started a creative finance business, skyrocketed. So the cool part is we get to talk to you guys today who kind of were the puppeteers of this thing and showed them the ropes. And that's just one example of many people who've changed their lives. And I think it's going to be cool to chat your evolution and kind of how things have changed for you. So I just wanted to put that out there for listeners. We have some powerhouses on the show today.
We do. And I think before we get into all of the great things that you guys do in the real estate game, give us a 5-minute background for people that haven't heard the first podcast episode, who you are, where you're from, how real estate plays a role in your life, maybe how you got into it in the beginning, and then we'll get into what you're doing now.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, first of all.
Yeah, I got to say, like, we're so proud of Mike and Jay. I mean, they put in the work. So yes, that we were there helping them along, coaching, but they did the work.
And you could have told they were rock stars from the beginning. They just needed and loved them too, right? Because they had all the energy, all of the reasons to be successful, the burning desire, which they had. And they just needed to get like, hey, just point me in the right spot. And then when I did, those two were just took off. So I wish
pretty good
like,
testimonial to have then. There you go.
Yeah, believe me, it wasn't all us. We definitely helped in some direction, but they do a lot of great things, and that's why they're awesome. So, but my name is Joe DelleFave. It's my wife, Jenn.
Yeah.
And we got into real estate a long time ago. We were dating 2008. So I'm going to date myself a little bit. I met this beautiful young lady, and she was a teacher. I worked at a car dealership. And I had a house. She did too. She ends up moving into mine, and
I became an accidental landlord. Next thing you know, I'm renting out to a friend. She's paying half the mortgage, which was better than nothing. But I realized at that point, like, that happens to people. All of a sudden you have an extra house. It sounds crazy, but it happens.
Well, and then I start dragging her to all these junkers, and she's like, why do we need one more house? Because I already did a wholesale deal years before because my friend bought a course on TV, and I just borrowed it and did it, made like a whole bunch of money. But after that, we were going to these junkers and we started finding these deals. Oh, wait, everybody knows the market was crashing. We were finding deals on the MLS out in the suburbs in Rochester, New York. That's where we got started. Before we knew what Burr was, that's what we were doing. We were doing about one house a year, got married, made a great choice there. We started having kids, and Jen walked away from teaching to be a stay-at-home mom. And we were still burring. And then at 2016 is when, I got the call from my friend at the bank. It was like, we can't burr out of more than 10 properties, so you need to figure something else out. So we got into learning creative finance, and that's what really changed our world.
Mm-hmm. So it was the crazy summer of 2017. We took our rentals. I think we had 5 at the time, and we decided we're going to switch them all to rent to own, which was amazing looking back, but holy cow, it was a ride. So we raised a lot of capital with large non-refundable option deposits, and then realized if we could sell them this way, then we better start learning how to buy creatively. So we did our first seller finance deal in 2017. Yep. And then in 2018 did our first, the seller had a mortgage. So we did a wrap on that. And we were like, okay, like we could do this.
Got another deal that was a 0% mortgage. And we're like, oh my gosh, like we've got 2 0% deals now. Like this is great. And we took over a property where we bought it, but the seller had a mortgage. And that's when our business was like, we're doing this from now on. So we
had the dream of working together full time, but he had a really great job and literally like always worked, and we never saw each other. So I loved staying home, taking care of the kids, and it was great, but we really missed having him around. So in 2020, we had signed up for a little bit more mentoring. I decided that, you know what, when my little one goes off to school in the fall in 2020, I'll bring Joe home, right? Like I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to get this real estate thing off the ground. And lo and behold, that March, New York shut down and we had the opportunity of a lifetime to really just set sail and start this thing.
Love it. So I've been talking we talk a lot about real estate on our show. And there's a lot of people that come to us now at this point and say like, yeah, I know, like everyone could get involved in real estate in 2017, 2018, 2019. Like it was so much easier, interest rates were lower, this, that, the third. And all of that may be true. But I have found we believe that creative financing is really the now and the future of real estate. If rates come back down, there'll be, you can still buy with traditional mortgages, obviously, but the creative space has really opened up this new realm to people that didn't even know it existed. Even us, really, within the past 6 months to a year, we learned a lot about it. We're working a deal right now, actually, 10 minutes from my house. I've been going back and forth with the seller. He says, don't give up on me yet. It's kind of one of those things, a seller finance deal. So I'm tracking a couple things, and I'm learning how much going direct to sellers is so much more advantageous. So maybe you could paint a picture for people. The word creative is there's so many routes to go, right? But like, what does that actually look like in an example of doing a deal? And how have you done so many that way?
Well, and you bring up a good point because it sounds confusing. And that was kind of our first hurdle of got into it. And so what we learned was it's a big umbrella of many different ways to buy real estate without using your bank or credit. So the first deal we did, we had a seller, free and clear house, inherited grandpa's house, didn't need any work, rented it to a friend, lived an hour away, hated doing the repairs. He's like, I just want to sell it, but I don't want a low cash offer. Well, before, when I knew creative, the only thing I was looking at was low cash offers on these junkers. So this was the first house I'm actually negotiating on that's free and clear. They don't owe anything on it, and it's turnkey. So when we agreed to terms, I paid his price. I think he got me $2,000 off. But how the deal worked out great for us is I bought it with $100 down. I got a 0% mortgage, and I got a $500 payment. So when I bought the property, I needed my $100, which I gave him at McDonald's when he signed the purchase and sale agreement. The rest of the money went to the attorney for the title, for closing work and all that, which is about $3,000. So out of pocket on the deal with my insurance policy I had to put on there was about $4,000, right? So when my renter that we do rent to own, because that's our favorite exit strategy, our renter gave us $10,000 to move in. They were paying $1,250 a month for rent. So with taxes and insurance, we were cash flowing about $500, but they're also paying down our mortgage at 0%. So what we found was we got paid a chunk of money up front when they moved in. We get monthly cash flow, plus they're paying it down And then eventually when they bought it, we got a huge check too. So that's how we got into our very first seller finance deal, because it was free and clear. But then the second deal we did, what Jen just brought up, we had somebody who actually was an accidental landlord, just like Jen. She had her own house, met a guy, moved in with him, got married, had kids, rented extra house, rented it. Of course, the typical tenants move out in the middle of the night thing, left it a mess. They fixed it up, put it back to decent order again, but then she didn't want to have it rented again. So when she saw that we were renting houses for rent to own, she says, "Do you buy?" I said, "I sure do." We agreed for me to buy it for her price because it was turnkey. She just fixed it all up again. We bought it with $100 down. But this is where I learned the strategy of what they call a wraparound mortgage. Now, some people call it subject to. They're very close. There's a small difference. A wraparound does a little bit better protection for the seller and buyer because there's a note created that gets filed with the county saying that who's making the payments. So if the buyer defaults, they could foreclose, versus on a subject to, they just kind of deed you the property and hope you pay. So it's just a little bit more, that's what we did on that deal. And so we bought it with a wrap. So we bought the property, but the loan stayed in the seller's name because they had a really low rate and a really low payment, which now we still own that property because our renter just gave it back to us after being there for 5 years, doing rent to own. His turn came up and he's like, "Hey, I left the keys on the gate," like nothing, walked away from it. So this weekend, our renter, our new one, is moving in and we're getting about $30,000. So you could see why that's much better than getting first month's rent and a security deposit. And that's why we love rent to own.
Absolutely. So to give people an idea here, and I really like the rent to own model too. And what you're doing, and you explained some of this, Joe, but what you're doing essentially is you're getting non-refundable deposits. So that person that walked away loses the money that you already got. And in reality, you're getting another check. That's not how you drew it up, but that's how it happens, right? And not only, and this is pure cash flow too. So that's why I like the rent to own model, because you're not the landlord. Those people who are rent to own are, maybe they had a legitimate hiccup in their credit, or they just need time to get seasoning before they can get a traditional mortgage. They're acting like they're the owner of the home, unless the guy's going to leave in the middle. I don't know what happened to him, but they're acting like they're going to own the home. So if you have a note and you have to pay $1,200 a month and they're paying you $1,700, it's real cash flow. You're not saying, "Oh, I have to take out a maintenance and all this." They handle the maintenance, and then the payday at the end, is when you cash the seller out of the deal in the rent to own model. Is that, am I painting that picture correct in the way that you do it?
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that, because somewhere here, I got a FedEx envelope, because after this, we have our notary coming over because we're actually selling one of our properties too. They finally got to the tail end of it and they qualified for a mortgage. Now they moved in 2018. They've been paying rent for the last 6 years. They paid off our house. It's free and clear now. And now they're like, "Hey, Joe, we fixed all the stuff. We're ready to qualify." The neat thing about it is their payment really doesn't change, but now starting, later tonight, tomorrow, the next couple of days, they're going to now own the house, which is cool because you still have a celebration. But, when you go to the attorney's office to sign the paperwork, you're just going home to the place you've been living for the last 6 years, right? So it's still exciting. Hurrah. Like, you still pop that bottle, have a good old time. But, you've already been living there. So it's great.
Well, I think it's beneficial. The reason why I like it, the rent to own model, and I'll say it again, is because you're really helping somebody. You really are helping that person who, and this can be an entrepreneur. These can be high end homes too. Yeah. Oftentimes, the ones in better condition might be high end homes where someone is an entrepreneur and they need 2 years to show the magic to the banks that they can qualify for a mortgage. So you can get $1 million home where this scenario fits, and that this is the way for people to get their own property. So congrats to them. I think it's great.
Well, that's what we fell in love with, that model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the next wave of real estate. I know you guys have been doing it a long time, but for a lot of people today, as you guys all well know, it's hard for people to afford a house. And so to start, and some people just they're not bankable, their credit might be poor, they've had a life event happen, divorce, death, whatever, right? There's a lot of things that happen, and that to a banker, there's like, "No, you don't qualify yet for financing for a house. We can't give you a loan. You can't go buy one." So to have them start here and you work them all the way up, even though it doesn't maybe feel like the ultimate celebration because they're buying something that they lived in for 6 years, they're now a homeowner. And that's a dream for a lot of people in the States.
Oh,
I think in the world.
They celebrate for sure.
I'm sure they do. I mean, who wouldn't? Now, I will say, there's a lot of people out there that are doing this. Not a ton, but we've come across people in the creative space more recently than not. Can you guys take us through your acquisition to management and then disposition system of the business? Because it sounds, you don't have to give us every, secret to success, but just to paint the picture for people listening, like how they could get involved in something like this. I know you have a business on this and then a coaching program to help people get involved. But the reason I'm asking is it seems difficult and there's a lot of ins and outs for people to get involved in something like this rather than just going the traditional route of getting a realtor and buying a house. But I'm curious, like peek behind the curtain, how do you guys run your ship and give people an idea of maybe how they could go into a market today and buy a property using creative?
Well, the key to learning how to buy creative is you have to find off-market direct to seller. Okay. So you got to get your lead machine up. If you don't have incoming leads, you're never going to find a deal, right? So you got to connect with leads. We give away our favorite way to get leads that we share with everybody. I mean, our clients, with us, with everybody, right on our website, but we do it in Facebook groups. So we have our clients and us and everybody else, guys, just go join Facebook groups and go get our posted in these groups. You're going to have people raise their hand for free and say, hey, I have a property I want to sell. And now you don't need a huge marketing budget, because the challenge is, how do I get leads? That was my biggest struggle in the beginning, was how do I find these people who want to sell their house? Well, what's cool thing of Facebook, there's groups with 30, 50,000 people in them or more. And there's plenty of people who might see your post, right? And not everybody has a house they want to sell, but you would believe the amount of leads that you can get for free. It's hundreds every single month for free.
What type of groups, not to cut you off here, but I'm curious, like Facebook's big, right? As everybody knows.
Yeah.
I've heard the Facebook group strategy. I'm always curious of like, what type of groups are you talking about? Are they real estate focused, or are they just community groups within a specific town niche? Like maybe that's true drilled down, but I'm just curious on like how you kind of make yourself known in these groups.
Yeah, so you actually don't really want to go post in the real estate groups. This is more for where are you going to find your homeowners? And a lot of people say, oh, I don't really like Facebook. It's more for the older people. Well, guess what? Older people have houses, right? So that's why we love it. So you want to get into those community groups, the yard sale, the buy and sell. So if you know, like for us, we love Rochester, New York. So I'm going to go into Facebook in the search bar. I'm going to type in Rochester, and then I'm going to click on the groups, and then it's going to start popping up like yard sale, Rochester Craigslist group. And then you could even go a step further. What are the towns outside of that city? Because we love suburbs, right? Where are the good school districts? So up in Rochester, I'm going to pull like Greece, Hilton, Victor. Those are just really nice little towns around there. And again, you're going into the group. So if you're a mom, go join those mom groups. And that's a perfect group to be able to go post in, or the buy sell page, or I Heart whatever the town is. So if there are people, like Joe said, you're looking for the larger groups that are pretty active, you're going to want to go into those groups. Now, remember, you want to be active on Facebook. So if you are just dusting off your profile and you just start joining groups and like spamming it, like you might get blocked. So be leery of that. So take some time, like be a real person, be social on social media. It's free. So we got to put in some time somewhere, but it is very lucrative.
What do you believe? What do you think about cold callers? And that's how we're running our ship right now. And it sounds like you don't really do that a lot. And so Ryan and I started out, we were doing the calls, and we're like, damn, like, first of all, we're not afraid to sell at all. But it was just like, I feel like we weren't spending our time the way we should be spending our time, right? As the business owners, right? We shouldn't be the ones doing the call. So we hired a VA. Right now, we have the VA who's making the initial call. We're making the second call. It sounds like you don't really do any of that. And I'm curious, like, do you do that or mailers, or like what, if not, how come?
So our method's a little different. So at this point, obviously we've built our business. We have money to spend on leads. So we do run sponsored ads on Facebook. So our goal is to have the warm incoming leads, which works great for the free method too. If you're posting in groups, you're getting free warm leads. So our method is our lead comes in through a sponsored ad, and then we have a virtual assistant, and then she'll ask the 10 questions that we have. They're really simple, but just gathering some information. And then from there, a lead manager would pick up the phone, gather a little bit more information, especially if it's, high level motivation, a situation that the person's like really interested in hearing more about terms, because question number 10 on our script is just, asking them that, or would you be interested in seller financing? And so if that is going out well, then the next step is the closer, and the closer would then hop on the call. And then that next step is just negotiating the 4 deal points, which is Joe's forte.
Yeah. And so really the thing we have found is like when I've cold called, so I know what you guys have been through. I'm sorry for that. Okay. I have friends that cold call, but some of the calls go great and I love it. And
it works. Anything works.
Yeah, they all work. Don't get me wrong. But we love the ones where they're actually raising their hand and they're saying, hey, I have a house I want to sell. And one reason why we love Facebook is because when you're pulling a list and you're cold calling it, usually many other people called that same list. The same lists are getting around everywhere. Everybody's reselling the same names, right? There's so many vacant homes. There's so many this. So that list gets called often. I cannot tell you how many times I get calls for stuff. But either way, with Facebook, there's the competition. It's really different because they usually are, many times we're the first person they're talking to about this. So, which is an interesting thing. So they're raising their hand. They have an off-market property. And most of the time we're the first person they've talked to. And so therefore I'm getting direct to seller.
It's very interesting. I love this model. It's, to the average person listening and they're like, well, that's a no brainer. It sounds like the easier model, right? There's less traffic, less competition. I'm curious for the people that, you have the 10 questions and you're sending things out, but in your ads to get someone to raise their hand, what we found a lot on the phone is like you get someone interested, they're interested in selling their home, right? But as soon as you bring up creative or the way you buy, they either get confused because it seems like a lot of
they want their money now,
or they want the money immediately, and they're like, I'm just going to get a realtor. I don't care if I make a little bit less. I have my lump sum now and I'm ready to go. So I'm curious how you find the motivation with these people that are raising their hand, right? Like to get them through the process and comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm not going to go through a realtor. I'm going to go through Jenn and Joe and really like, buy, let's just say at McDonald's, right? Or through a notary. It's different than having an official realtor signing the paperwork and all the stuff. So,
yeah. So I think the big thing is you got to talk to motivated sellers. That's going to be your biggest difference because there's many people, or maybe their best option is maybe they're not that motivated and their best option is to put it on the market. And I tell them that too, like, hey, why didn't you just put it on the market and sell it? And then they tell you why they don't want to do that, right? Well, then if you don't want to do that, maybe there's some solutions I can help. And there's many times where these are crystal clean turnkey houses and they want top dollar for it. Well, if I can, and I can negotiate a 2.5% interest rate because they're out there everywhere, and I could get a deal with very little cash down and I'm into it, but I could pay their price, but I have a low payment, low rate, long-term, beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, then sure, the price is almost irrelevant. It is, but I'll tell you, I'm going to pay way more than any cash buyer ever would, right? So that goes against that. But you got to find a motivated seller, and they are in high-end homes. They're in the mid-level stuff too, and they're in the lowest of end homes too. There's motivated sellers, but the difference is so many times we spend focusing on the next seller, but we really don't know their true motivation. So part of our script that we've designed in-house, that ones that, it's awesome, but we ask questions and the seller actually makes us the offer. So that we talked about a deal that I have not too far from you. I'm working right now with the seller. And she was the one that said, I want my 285 price. I told her that I typically buy with no money down. She said, well, I need some money. I said, well, I typically don't because I'm going to do some small stuff to your house. So we're going back and forth on that. She said, what would the payment be? I told her because I pay taxes and insurance, it's about $700 a month. She calculated that times 5 years. And so she says, so at the end, you take off about 40,000. Like she told me she wants to do a 0% mortgage. Right. So that payment's going to go towards what you owe me every month. So this much later on down the road. Right. So I just ask good questions. Many times you're right. It does not work for people. But also too, for those fixer uppers, I could offer them at cash price too.
So right. And then flip it as a wholesale. Is that
wholesale like fix and flips? Because we've got fix and flips and Jenn tells me stop, but we still have a bunch happening all over the country because we do them all virtually. So we do them all over the country. We never go to a house ever. That's
what I wanted to talk about. So, you got us through kind of A and B, and then like part C here is the disposition, right? And it can go a bunch of different ways, but I'm thinking the rent to own, right? Say you get this deal in Allentown that we talked about, and sorry if I don't know if I was supposed to mention the city.
No,
so
you can.
Okay, cool. So you get this deal done, right? And then you guys are all the way down in Florida. How are you getting a rent to own buyer in that house and, following through the whole process? Because it just seems daunting for you guys are thousands of miles away. So kind of walk us through that process.
Yeah. So it's after you've done a couple yourself, you just kind of get thick skin and you just know the drill. So even though, when we first were doing it in Rochester, I wasn't going and showing the house. Like I was just sending people over. He's working crazy hours. He doesn't want me showing houses with my 2-year-old at the time. So, you just set a system and you create a process and you stick to it. So for us, it's really simple. You put a lockbox on the door and you collect some information before you send somebody over there. Like, I want to make sure, does this person actually want to rent to own the house, or are they just looking to rent? Can they afford that monthly payment of whatever the rent is? And how much do they have? If they only have a couple $1,000s, then I'm probably not going to send them over. But if they've got 5, 10 or more, then yeah, I want them over there as soon as possible. So to kind of cover our tracks, make sure you get like a driver's license. And then we have our dispo girl. Right now we have Katie working with us, and she will hop on a FaceTime call. But in the beginning, it was Joe and I, and we'd hop on a call and you walk through with your potential tenant buyer, and you see what they like, what they don't like, see if they'd be a good fit. And then from there, you send them off to the screening company if they love it. And we get back this huge report that they pay for. We see if their debt to income is correct, if it would work out, what is their background, their history, all of that. We take a great snapshot of, okay, it's going to take them 18 to 24 months to get qualified. And the next step, if everybody loves it and they've got enough money and we give the A-OK, we send them to the attorneys and they're doing the paperwork.
Got it.
Cool.
So the big thing with creative financing for the sellers, talking about the people that you're buying houses from, is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that they're going to get the top dollar, but they're not going to get all their cash immediately in a lot of scenarios. And that's why you can pay top dollar, because you're kind of spreading it out over time. I'm curious what a motivated seller looks like to you. And I'll give you an example. Like for us, if there's an expired listing and somebody had their house listed for $500,000, and then they lowered it to $495, and then they lowered it to $480, and lowered it to $460, and it didn't sell, they're going to pay on that, tens of thousands of dollars to a realtor on top of lowering the price. The motivation for us is like, hey, we can pay you that $500,000, but we're going to pay it to you over time, and you're going to cash you out in 36 months or something like that. Is that a good example of somebody who's motivated? I'm trying to find like what the motivation is. I know that it could be like a divorce. I need to get out of it, but that person may think it's easier to sell it with a realtor than to sell it to you and be tied to the deal for 3 years, right? So like, what does it look like?
So I'll go over just real world examples of deals that we have right now.
There's so many like flying through my head.
Yeah, because the thing is rather than coming up with hypotheticals, like just current deals are it. I've got one lady in upstate New York. Her house is worth $400,000. She inherited her mom's house. She moved in there. She's making both payments. She's struggling. She only owes like $170, but she wants $360. She's like, everybody else is offering me like under like in the $2s. And I know this place is worth $400,000. I don't want to give it away. I want $360 is my number. So we agreed to buy it $100 down. I'm taking over her 2.5% interest rate at some crazy low payment, right? Because for her burning desire wasn't her getting her equity right now. Her burning desire was to get that monthly $2,000 payment off her back, because making 2 payments every month was a real strain on some single lady in her 60s, still working, living paycheck to paycheck, juggling two $2,000 mortgages. And she doesn't make money like that. So she's blown through all of her savings, and now she's struggling, right? So she doesn't want to, she's already moved into mom's house. The house that was just built 10 years ago with this big old gorgeous barn is just sitting there vacant, guys. And so that's her issue. And that's just one scenario. The second one is some folks we have in our coaching group last night. I had like one of the worst calls ever. Like totally feel bad for these people. They had their house for sale with wholesalers. These people live in Shreveport, Louisiana. Wife works for a title company. Husband's a disabled vet. They're moving to Texas to be closer to the hospital and closer to family. He's got some medical issues going on. They reach out to a cash buyer, and the cash buyer wraps up the deal for $135,000. The house is worth $200,000 all day long, but it needs a roof, definitely, because it was tarped. It needs some paint. So if I had to guess, it's going to need about $15,000 worth of work. So for a cash offer, I would have locked that deal up for around 100 to 110. I'm going to wholesale it for probably 120, 125 tops. Well, these folks had it locked up way too high. So they're out looking for cash buyers, and guess what happens? 2 hours before closing, the sellers get a phone call. Now these guys are packed up. They're ready to leave with their check and go to Texas. Their house is packed up, ready to go. They got the kids, the U-Haul truck. 2 hours before they close, they get a call from the buyers saying, we can't close on the deal unless you change it from a cash deal to a subject to deal. And these people are like, are you kidding me? The sellers were only going to have $8,000 at closing, right? So these people burned all the trust, got these people very, very angry, and now they no longer want to do the deal with them. So they reached out to one of my clients who posted that post that we talked about in a local group that was like, I love Shreveport, and the people responded to it. And we get on a call last night, and I hear the story of these two people, and I could hear the pain in their voices of what they're going through. I can't imagine packing all my house into a U-Haul and then not leaving town when I was expecting to, and the new place is waiting for me. So what we talked about was doing what we call one of these creative flips, because they didn't want to wait years and years and years. So the creative flip means they could buy it, get a couple grand to leave so they could go, buy the house with really not a lot of cash, just a few thousand in closing costs, but still getting it at a big discount, putting the little bit of money into the house, that $15,000, so they're probably in for about $150, list it with themselves because they're agents for $200, and in that market right there, it is red hot. And he says it should be able to turn around and sell quickly is what he messaged me about. So with that being the case, if you only have about $15,000 to $20,000 out of pocket, and I could do a whole fix and flip, that's really just a great way to. That's for the seller who maybe gives you still a big discount, right? But they don't want to wait 20 years for their term. So there's some times where we could even do those creative flips too.
Got it. So that in that case, because they were representing themselves, they were able to make the whole $50,000, basically the difference between $150 and what they could sell it for. So, I mean, to put $15,000 in and walk away with 50, that's a pretty good deal. It makes sense. And that's when people say creative financing, they're like, it's like, sounds fictitious, but that's really what it is. It's like, you can look at every deal. You say, what's the best outcome for this? For the seller, for us, for maybe a rent to own person. And that's why I feel like it makes the most sense.
Yeah. Can you, I think I meant to ask this earlier on in the episode, just for some newbies out there that are new to the creative space. Can you talk to some of the ways that you buy? We know the dispo is predominantly rent to own, but maybe subject to, there's a couple other ones that are just like we already mentioned the wrap, and then a couple more. So can you talk to the ways you guys buy, and when you like dissect a property, say you get the 10 questions answered, right? And you're like trying to figure a way that you can maneuver the deal to make it work. What's in your arsenal?
Yeah, and that's why we call it the playbook, because it's literally, okay, what play are we going to run? And honestly, sometimes you switch it up. So we have another one up in upstate New York where we thought it was something like everyone would want for a short-term rental. Really cute little space up near the Berkshires, and it was just like amazing. And we kind of put it out there, didn't get much back. So we're like, okay, let's take this down ourselves and do rent to own. But it comes down to the numbers. And that lady was motivated because she just picked up and moved to Florida. Didn't even have a job down here, but she's already gone, left New York, came down. So that one we're buying on a wrap. But then also there's people who maybe are in the middle of buying another house. I know we've done the lease purchase.
Yeah. So what sometimes you'll have to do, maybe they say, I need to qualify for another mortgage right away. Well, if you buy with subject to, if you buy with a wrap, they have to wait till you make 12 payments in order for that to qualify to be income to be able to wash out some of their debt. Sometimes that's a real thing. So there's many times what we can do to be very creative is that we buy it with a lease purchase, lease option, right? So in the beginning, I'm going to lease it with the option to buy it. So with that lease agreement, they could use that income right away, immediately, to help wipe out their debt. Now, when they do buy their house, and they finally close on it, that's when I get to execute my option to buy. And then when I do execute my option to buy, I buy it on a wrap. Because there's so many times people are saying, Joe, I need to qualify right now for a mortgage. And I talked to my bank person and I can't do it subject to, or I can't do it with a wrap, and they want to. So once we've implemented even that one extra strategy to do the lease option, and I might be only in the lease for 3 months before they close on their house. But the best thing about that is in that 3 months before they close on theirs, I'm going to be showing that rent to own. So by the time I got to close and come up with closing costs and maybe a little bit of money, I usually have my renter ready to go in that situation. So when I need to use the closing costs to actually close on the deal and I need $5,000, I'm using their money.
Got it. Okay. This is, thanks for being specific. I think this is really good for people that are listening. If you're driving, hopefully you're not writing stuff down and crashing at the same time. Hopefully you're able to
come back to it.
Yeah, but this is really good. I'm curious about you two and your future goals with the business. Like, I know you have a coaching program. I know you're buying a lot of these on your own. Like, what you've already made the move to Florida. Like, you clearly do it because you love it. I can tell that from talking to you. But like, what do you want this to look like in 5 years, or do you not even have that mapped out?
We do. Well, so much has changed. So since we last were on your episode, we lived in upstate New York. And what happened was we were tired of working from home, homeschooling our 2 kids. And Jen was like, we're going to go away. We're going to go somewhere down south for a month. And we came to Florida. And when we stayed for 1 month, we actually ended up staying for 3 months. And we looked at each other. We're like, we don't want to go back. We're still doing deals all over. Why not live here where it's sunny and it's beautiful and there's no snow?
Florida will do that to you. It's done that to me, and I bought a place down there because of it. So it will definitely do that to you. Yeah.
And well, we didn't want to go back, and we still can because we travel and things like that. But so we decided to make that move. We moved down to Florida. Our team, we were doing deals still all over the country. But prior, we were still helping other people, because when we started doing a lot of these deals full time, and we brought on a team of people full time, we had so many folks like Mike and Jay and so many others reach out and say, can you show me how to do this? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like we had a coaching program, like we're going to teach everybody. Like it came like, take our money, please be like a consultant to our business. And so that's how we even got into this realm all together. But what we did prior to hiring other people is we brought on some like 18, 19, 20-year-olds into our own company, and we showed them what to do. And they were doing deals working for us. So I said, well, geez, if we could show them, we could show everybody else how to do this.
The case studies sold it for you too. So that's great. Go ahead.
I want to say that you actually led me perfectly here. I think before we wrap the episode and we talked about your future goals with it, I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued about how they can create their own business. Obviously, they can go to you guys for mentorship and research it. And we talked about some of the ways you can acquire deals, some of the ways you can dispo them. Can you talk about your team members? Like, who is on your team? You mentioned, we talked about a few of them along the way. You have some people accepting texts, some people sending out Facebook messages. You're doing the ads. Like, who's your team comprised of, and like the different layers of like where they start, kind of like infiltrating the world for you to start the process?
So I think we could definitely share what it looks like today, but you've got to remember it started with just the 2 of us. And when we did it full time, our mentor said to us, you guys have to start hiring. If this is a business, you need to start growing. And that can be a scary thing. 1 house a year, if that's your goal, that's great. But if you want to turn this into a full-time operation, you need to hire people and learn to lead them and be really great managers and just really be on a lot. And so we grew a really big team. And it was very hard to manage. And we realized that maybe wasn't the best route. So when we got to Florida, we said, we're going to get an office. So we went and got an office. And all of a sudden we went backwards, I felt like, because now he was leaving every day and gone all day long. And here I'm home with the kids. And once in a while I go up. I was like, man, this isn't what we wanted. What happened? So we had to reassess. So I think it's okay to give yourself permission to figure it out. Some things that work for other people in this business, like they love the office, they want the big team. But for us, we're really happy as a family. We homeschool. So, we also have, just different priorities and where we are in life. And so our goals reflect that. And I think our team does too. So to answer your question, I will try to remember everybody. We currently have 2 virtual assistants. One is running the first 10 questions with our sellers. And then I have one who helps me just create the content for the Facebook real estate business pages, because you should always have fresh content out there. And she does a bunch of other things too. We also have Lexi as our closer. So she's getting on that final call and then bringing it to Joe like, hey, this is something we got to write up. Before that, we have a couple of lead managers. So we've just brought them on and trained them to really sift through all the leads in the CRM so they can add up quickly. Then we just have 1 dispo right now, talking about maybe doing another, depending. And then we just hired this past fall an executive assistant, and I waited way too long to hire her. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with admin tasks or like all the things running in your business, definitely find someone that can help you with that, because she's been a huge game changer in our business. And Abby, the glue that holds us together. She runs everything tech. So she's doing CRM and running like the Asana boards and Notion and just keeping us all together, because everybody's virtual for the most part. We have a couple employees here in Florida, but we like to work, from home some days. Sometimes we're together, and then we have employees all over. And then we do have a marketing girl with us as well.
So that's really, it sounds like it was one at a time. I will tell you, it sounds a lot right now, but as things have grown in our business, moving to Florida, still doing a lot of deals, helping clients and, focusing on 100% client success. And so you really need to be very well organized. So like Philippa, our assistant, she's a rock star. She's from Sweden, went to college here, stayed. And we're like, okay, you can't go back to Sweden because you're awesome. And she's a rock star. So she's helping things just stay organized so we could focus on really moving the needle forward. And that's really the goal, kind of get away from some of the things. So we even got removed from some of our team meetings. So we're not having to go to our team meetings. Our team is having meetings without us, helping move the needle. And so it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine. It's true business. And I've heard this so many times. It's like there's a big difference between being a solopreneur and being a business owner. And Ryan and I are bi-solopreneurs, whatever you want to call it. Like two of us just like running it. And we love it though. So I think that's part of it. And we don't, Ryan does have a child. I'm not there yet. But as we grow our families, it's kind of like the thing where you need to be the business owner. You can't do it all yourself. Right now, after this, it's 7:00 in the East and I might still work. You know what I mean? But like Rye's going to go home and like he wants to be with the fam. And so it's like, that level to get to that where you can say, hey, my team's having meetings without me. I think that's impressive. And you've been doing it for a long time. So kudos to the two of you. I want to ask a question about maybe more philosophical about like why you do it all. Real estate investing is advantageous. It can be a beautiful thing. It really helps. 90% of millionaires are made through real estate. So we know why people do it, but I'm curious, like, why do the coaching? Like, is it really just to give back? Like, what's the purpose behind it? What gets you out of bed every morning?
Well, I think we're crazy. No, a little bit there.
Yeah,
but...
well, we all have, the four of us on this call, we all have that.
We just mentioned all those, and just to butt in here, the reason I think it's a great question is you have so much going on. All of these people that you have on your team require management, and then your family requires management too. So like, you hire people to do things and offload things from your schedule, but you're still managing in a way too, right? And your days are busy. You're still actively working. You're not by no means out of the business. So that's why it's like, there's got to be a fuel, like a why. Like, why the heck are you doing this and consuming your time with this when you probably have a lot of real estate under your belt and portfolios enough where you guys could kind of sit back?
Yeah, but you know what? And I think about this, as far as for our coaching business, you got the people like Mike and Jay. Right. You get people that you given them some knowledge to help change the trajectory of their whole life. And I think back to when I was 22 years old, the year 2000. So I'm going to date myself. I was broke. I had bad credit. Right. And I found this course because my buddy let me borrow it and gave me access to this stuff. There was no YouTube back then. So if I didn't get this opportunity, I would not be where I am now. And so then when we bring somebody on like a Mike and Jay, or we've got this one mom and daughter duo out of California, and they started with us in October. They've already closed like 3-4 deals that they bought with Creative, and they just came to our last support call, and they've got 17 deals under contract. 17, complete rock star. She's a single mom, and her mom's the one helping her, kind of like, holy cow, hanging onto the roller coaster while her daughter's just knocking out deals. So I think you get somebody like a guy like Carlos who's in Cape Coral, and you hear him doing his very first deal, and he gets a 3% interest rate. And it's just really cool, I think, to help other people learn how to do this, because once you do one, you're right, it's addicting. And you want to keep buying these houses so you can make money while you're sleeping, because all of the millionaires, it's because a lot of it's they own real estate. And if you have to do wholesaling, or if you have to do fix and flips, or if you're a realtor, well, when you stop doing that job, the money stops coming in. The party is over. And if you could have cash flowing assets, especially ones that you're buying without credit, without banks, so you could scale way faster and way better, and then implement our strategy like rent to own, to where you actually could get paid to buy some of these houses too, to really kick up your investing, you could start doing a lifestyle thing. And that's what it was for me, because I got to go with a walk with the kids today and my wife to go for a walk in the middle of the day. It was hot because we're in Florida, but it was great.
Yeah.
I could never do that before.
I think I'm glad you answered it that way, Joe, because it ends up becoming a feeling. And we're a few stages behind you. We don't have as much real estate, but we have like this podcast, just for example, like we interviewed somebody who was like, we've been shouting him out a lot, but like he messaged us like 3 years ago. Hey, I just bought my first property. I was listening to you guys, like, so cool. Hey, a year later, hey, I just bought my second property. Like I learned this from these people on your podcast. And it's like, we've found recently our purpose and why we're doing the things that we're doing. And I find it parallel to what you're doing. It's like, once you hit a level of success, they're all varying degrees, depends on the room you're in. We could be in a room where we have nothing compared to the rest of the people. We could be in a room where we look like we're the rock stars, right? But the point is that when you have reached a level of some success at any fashion, it ends up becoming about the feeling of helping somebody else get to that stage that you've gotten to, even a couple stages behind, more so than the money. Because it's like, what do you really use the money for? You have a certain lifestyle, you want to sustain it. Maybe you do want to grow it. That's great too. Maybe you want to go on more vacations. But like at the end of the day, going from, I don't know, $500,000 to $900,000, or from $900,000 to $1.2 million, just throwing examples, like, how much does it really benefit you as a person? It helps, but I love the aspect of like giving back. And that's what the coaching program really does. I say this a bunch, it's never been easier to learn anything in the world on the internet. You're doing all this virtually and you're helping people virtually. It's like, if you have a passion or you want to go do something, it's all out there, especially in the real estate game. So I say that to say, sign up for your program if it's something you want to do.
Well, here's the point of it too. Nobody's more successful than others. If your situation or your idea of success is, I did one deal this year and you hit it, you're successful, right? If my goal was to hit 10 deals and I hit it, that doesn't mean I'm more successful. We both hit our goal of our level of success. So you can be successful, just might have different targets. Wealth is something that's measured by money and numbers. Success isn't measured like that. I had my goal, I hit it. Right. And maybe it's your first deal, maybe it's your next deal, maybe you're trying to scale your business, but whatever your level of success looks like, a lifestyle. I can go to the beach and be there in 10 minutes and be on one of the best beaches on the planet and take my kids in the middle of the day when normally I'd work. That's a big thing for success for me. Obviously, wealth is super important and that's great and I love it, but that's the real big key to enjoying your life. It's not just always about the money, although the money makes it a lot. You'll have more and better choices is what it does. Yeah,
the money gives you options, but I've been taking walks. I take walks all the time, but just even like be able to take the walk in the middle of the day or to go to the gym at noon, like to have gratitude for like the little things of like the semi-financially free, like you're in a semi-financial position where I don't have to show up to an office 8 to 5 every single day and like, get my soul sucked out of me like that. So that is that the little wins are huge. Did you have something? Yeah, you're good. Okay, cool.
I get it. I was doing that for 20 years. I worked at an office. So you're spot on. The fact that you figured this stuff out now, high five. You've got, kids, you got a young one, 13 months.
And for me, it's to be able to like at 2:00, I go to the table and I'm reading a Civil War book with my kids. And I'm the one walking them through like some really tricky concepts, talking about history, or we're working on writing or whatever it is. And there's also days where we'd have play dates with other homeschool families. So again, like that is the freedom right there. It's about penciling it in, just like everything else, because you can get very caught up in the grind. Obviously, we love working and we'll do it all day long if we aren't careful. So you have to remember to take care.
You're doing it because you love it. And the ability to homeschool is that's a blessing in itself too, right? I mean, like there's a lot of families that like both the parents they got to go to work. They can't support their lives without doing that. And they come home and whatever they learned at school, hopefully it was a good one today, right? Like, so the ability to homeschool, I've thought more, I mean, it's kind of a growing thing in you're seeing it all over the place for a variety of reasons that I'm probably not going to get into in this episode, but I have thought about it myself when I have kids. I'm thinking like, there's just, so the ability to do that. I say this all to say, people that are listening, don't be intimidated by somebody like Jenn and Joe who have been doing this for a long time and found success, because you can carve out your niche and do the same thing or something else just by tapping into other people's networks. So this has been awesome. I'm glad that you were able to come back on. We learned a little bit more about the current with the two of you. Florida, I think I'll end up there one day, at least for half the year. Thanks again. If people want to learn more about you, they want to network, they want to join your program, they want to just see a peek behind the curtain into your life, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
For me, it's Instagram. So just my name.
I see you all over there, by the way.
Yeah, Jenn DelleFave. I'm in my stories chatting. I go live. I share as much as I possibly can. It's just me. I don't have any VAs over there. Totally me on Instagram.
And for me, I love chatting about deals. So if you've got questions about how this stuff works, or you have a deal like, hey, I've talked to a seller, just call me or text me right on my cell phone. It's 585-207-2240. That is my cell phone, and I answer it.
Before we started recording, Jen said, Joe gives out his cell phone. I was like, sure you want to do that? But apparently he does it every time. So call him. He's telling you to call him.
You owe him a call about the guy down the street.
What? Oh, yeah, I do owe you a call, actually. So maybe we'll talk about the seller finance deal.
Can confirm.
Do it.
Yeah.
Can also confirm Jen replies to pretty much every DM. We've been going back and forth a lot, and it's great. All good stuff.
I never know who I'm talking to, but
oh, the one of us.
Oh, that's true. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess
it's him.
Yeah, it's me. Which is good. So no, we're glad to put this back together. We're super excited to be on your guys' show, live coming up here on a Tuesday here pretty soon. So you guys are doing amazing things. You're giving back, and you're kind of giving a peek behind the curtain. I know we've used that term a lot today, but on a different way to become a real estate investor and get in on still some of the amazing, creative, very low interest rates from COVID. And it's still possible today. And I think it's incredible. And it's something that more people need to know how to do, because it's optically in the market, it's very hard to buy a property, when in reality it's not, as long as you put the systems together. So thank you guys.
Here's the one thing I want to give you guys to your audience. If you want to learn how to get these leads for free, and you want to get the 10 questions that we ask every seller, we give it away for free on our website. Just go download it. You could have it. Go put it to use. So that's the deal. If you're going to take it, use it. Okay. And use it just like, because we give you all the stuff. So creativefinanceplaybook.com. So go check it out. Download the 10 magic questions that we ask every seller. And with our free Facebook marketing, the actual post that we use. And I'm going to warn you, if you use that post and you do it the same way, you're going to get a bunch of people reaching out to you. So go get that too. It's free for you guys.
These people are helping you cut through the fat. If you want to be in creative financing, go do it.
We've already seen the proof in the pudding with Mike and Jay, and they were a couple episodes back. So if you're listening, go listen to Mike and Jay's story. They are like prime examples of how and why Jen and Joe's program works, and how to put this whole thing together in your own life. So it's full circle. So great testimonial. You guys are awesome. Thanks again for coming on the show. This was a great episode.
Thank you guys so much. And call me on that deal, and we can't wait to see you guys on ours too.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.